Amateur hour begins immediately with Dallas on mute for the intro, guys. That's because we are obviously way too stoked after Idaho walks over Nevada 33-6. Guys, that was a bye game. Idaho just Dallas, you good now?
Yeah, apparently the StreamYard kept me muted after we came out of the video. I don't know why that wasn't on my end. Anyways, welcome back, Mighty Vandals, to Tubs at the Club, brought to you today by Snake River Stampede Whiskey, but more about that in just a little bit. We are the Vandals affiliate on the Big Sky Podcast Network. Guys, let's just jump right into it. I'm your host, Dallas Hammer. Today is also bold, brave Brian Marceau. I flipped that around, but I don't give a shit. And then finally, producer Martin Chavez here, kicking all over this broadcast. Guys,
let's go.
We're just going to jump right in. Idaho takes down FBS Nevada 33-6, does not allow a touchdown, scored a touchdown. First play of the game, 75-yarder from Giovanni McCoy to TJ Ivy. And that was all she wrote. Let's just dive right in. Martin, instant reaction. We're actually doing an instant reaction. We're almost right after the game ended here. Instant reaction, 33-6 victory, Martin.
I'm trying it. Holy crap, they actually did it. I'm not gonna lie, I'm still in the negative doom and gloom a little bit about some of the old past stuff, but they actually did it. They beat, and it's not an upset as I've seen some people say it is. They beat handily, like a bad FBS team, but still, oh man, it feels good to be able to say that for once.
Yeah, so Dallas, on the theme of instant reaction, before we do the what went well, what did not part. Look, Idaho made Nevada look like a mid-level Big Sky team. I mean, this game just there was no moment when it was in doubt. I almost wanted to laugh. That touchdown, first play of the game, Dallas to TJ Ivy. I almost started laughing my ass off because like Martin hit on the Vandal PTSD. No, it all melted away. Right away, 75-yard touchdown. And by that point, I mean, there was drama throughout the game, but it was tied for one total play. Like the kickoff and the first pass, that was it. Idaho felt like they could have scored over 50 if they decided to, but hey, Jason Eck did the right thing, milking the clock to just get out a 3+ score win. But when Idaho pocketed $400,000 for this game, in addition to the W, yeah, like it's good enough. 27 points over an FBS. I don't care what FBS team we're talking about, because yes, there are some FBS teams that suck. Who gives a shit? For playoff consideration, this is a huge win for Idaho. And look, Vandals are sitting at 2-0. We've got some breathing room heading into the Big Sky. Look, we're going to have as much breathing room in the Big Sky schedule as Montana and Montana State are going to have. Dallas, this is a huge deal. Not only that we embarrassed Nevada, but going forward, no, Idaho's in the driver's seat for the playoffs.
Dallas, you're muted.
Thank you. Nevada is probably in the bottom 10 schools in all of FBS. Might even be bottom 1, honestly, with how they looked. I want to call out 2 comments in the YouTube section here. Sean Foster, top 5 Vandal game for me. I'm beaming. And Captain 58 really left points on the field. It was a total blowout. Both of those are exactly my thoughts right now. This game was over the second it started. That 75-yard touchdown when I think he was number 33. It might have been 32. I don't remember the specific number of the Nevada defender. But running the complete opposite way of the play and had no idea where he was going. You could tell just from the first play, this was a complete outmatching from everywhere on the field. The talent, the coaching, everything. The Vandal program is just better than Nevada's at this point, which is insane when you think about Nevada beating Idaho by 50 the last time they played. Really couldn't be more happy with how this went. Loved that Eck did try to take the time of possession game, try to get out of here as healthy as possible. And honestly, a 33-6 victory that almost felt boring at times because Idaho just dominated in really every phase of the game. So guys, obviously this leads into the easiest question. Martin, what went well today?
I'll be honest, for me, I would say everything. I'm still going to be a little sunshine and rainbows again, positive outlook, Martin, from 2011, from 2021. But I'd say Giovanni, yes, there were some plays where it's like, yeah, he should have slid on a couple of things, but that's just me nitpicking. And I'd say the offense was, everything was perfect. But if I had to pick one thing, offense.
Okay, I'm going to try to be a little more specific. Offensively, well, let's just talk offensively. Idaho was pretty damn efficient with the ball, guys. Giovanni McCoy, 313 yards, 2 touchdowns on 21 total pass attempts, 6 incomplete passes. And of his incompletions, I bet about half of them were under duress. So passing game looked sharp as hell. It's going to be exactly who's going to be leading the passing game other than Hayden Hatton is going to probably rotate week in and week out because Idaho just has way too much talent at the wide receiver position. If they're going to throw around 20-ish times, some really good players are just going to not get as many catches. But of course, Hayden Hatton looked like the All-American he is. Giovanni McCoy, if you wanted to throw out the Lamar game because you were not 100% sure because Lamar sucks, whatever, but he looked great. Hayden Hatton led the way yard-wise in the receiving room with 85 yards. Jermaine Jackson contributed 45, then Jordan Dwyer 30 on his catches. If you're wondering why I am giving generic answers on without receptions, it's because the stats page I have up crashed. But through the air, yeah, Idaho was just pretty damn good, Dallas.
Yeah, honestly, for me, I was very impressed by the ground game. I know we had a little bit of concern with that after Lamar. I know that Woods broke off that 90-plus yarder that inflated some stats, but if you took that out, things didn't quite look as good. The Vandal running game looked a lot more consistent to me this go-around. Anthony Woods, 18 for 71 after the one loss there. Giovanni McCoy had that 40-yard dash that was quite impressive to see. Obviously, you'd love for him to get out of bounds one step earlier and not take the shot that he did. But I think that kind of comes with time, and also he's young. He's going to bounce back from that a lot quicker than he would 10 years from now in a pro career. Nick Romano, the Romano Renaissance, looked great. Didn't get a whole ton of play. I think he only had 7 carries, maybe 1 catch, but looked very good there, guys. It's tough to say, like, this part of the show could go on forever because we haven't even talked about the defense, and Idaho's defense just held an FBS school to 2 field goals. And if I believe correctly, one of them came off of a turnover. So Idaho's defense came to play today. And that honestly, that is the most impressive thing, I think, to me about this. We knew Idaho's offense was going to score points. We saw it last year. We saw it against Lamar. We know that the skill players at this school are better than anywhere else in the country. But as much shit as we talked about Nevada and not being impressed with them in the preview show, they're still an FBS school. As Taylor Cash says in the comment section, they still have more scholarships and more money than Idaho. The defense went out there and held them to 6 points, guys. You really can't complain about that at all.
Well, I think we need to take a spin around talking about the defense specifically too, because look, if you had any question about how the completely new and pretty damn young linebacking core was going to look through 2 weeks, they look just as good, if not better, than last year. And hey, freshman Dylan Lane picked off a huge pass early, almost picked off a second pass in the second half. Exree Alexander, now, I mean, this was garbage time. He's second string, but we have young dudes playing, contributing. Exree Alexander forces and recovers a fumble in the fourth quarter. Defensive line looked disruptive again. Number 92, Mari Notice, and number 5, Jakari Larmond in particular really pop out as not only having size, but speed on the defensive line. We saw that, especially Notice against Lamar. We saw that for sure, but hey, this is back-to-back games. Those two guys look good. That's for real. That's absolutely going to translate into a Big Sky Conference season. And yeah, again, Dallas, you're right, 6 points, but up front, Idaho looked, in spite of having a ton of new contributors from last year, really not that much continuity in the front seven over these first 2 years. Doesn't matter. They look better defensively than last season.
Oh, they absolutely look better defensively. We were devastated about the guys that had left. Favai graduating, Paul Moala taken off, Kamari Bailey taken off, or like right there at the end of the spring. Honestly, Keyshawn James Newby looks like he's a better pass rusher than we had at any point last year. Ended up getting the personal foul for hitting the quarterback in the head. But if you're going to play with the tenacity he's played with, he only registered one QB hit, but it seemed like when the pass rush was getting there, he was the guy that was half a second away from completely destroying the quarterback. This front seven is absolutely better than they were last year, and they replaced almost everybody. It's a testament, I think, to what Eck and Co are building, and especially I don't think Rob Borisch is going to be here for very long. I know that we talked about that last year, especially with how quickly he turned around what had been a terrible secondary into a strength of the team. And then now you look at it this year, the defense is just as good as the offense. Idaho is absolutely a top 10 team, guys, and it's because defensively, this team is loaded.
No, and look, in the secondary, which, and Martin, forgive me for filibustering you for a second. Secondary just looks good. I mean, look, Ormani Arnold gets a pick. Marcus Harris has a big pass breakup, the first pass play of the game. Harris was also not just active in pass defense. He had 5 solo tackles. Actually had one of the bigger hits on the game for Idaho. Then look, guys like Tommy McCormick. Now I'm going to talk about Montana for 1 second. Remember last season, Robbie Houck racked up a ton of tackles, partially because he kept tackling guys he was guarding who made catches. Yeah, guys like Tommy McCormick, you have to watch the game to notice their impact, because look, his two tackles aren't going to pop out because the guys he's covering aren't getting catches. No, Idaho's just looking good on essentially every single facet defensively. And like the secondary, I think Idaho just has a good Big Sky secondary. I think the Arnold is much better on the other side of the ball. There's some other younger dudes who rotate in as well. They're just strong. They look as good to me against Nevada as they did against Lamar. Nevada's objectively more talented. The only area of the field Nevada could exploit Idaho in the passing game whatsoever was to their 6'7" tight end over the middle a few times. And full disclosure, every single team is going to be exploited by that guy a little bit, but it was to the tune of 6 total points.
I mean, there's really nothing left to say. Martin, any final thoughts on the defense?
I got nothing else other than just it was a hell of a performance, and I couldn't be happier with it.
Yeah, I mean, everybody, I got to preface this real fast. We're going to jump into what didn't go well. Reminder, as we're talking about what didn't go well, we're breaking down a 27-point victory on the road against an FBS school that beat Idaho by 50 the last time they played. So with that said, Martin, what didn't go well today?
If I'm going to really find something, I will say the only thing that didn't go well, Idaho did leave, I want to say at least 8 points on the field this game. They got to 2 field goals on 2 drives. They probably should have got touchdowns down due to some false starts and some holding penalties. So the only thing I can think of is they essentially left a touchdown and a 2-point conversion on the field today. And that's my one, what didn't go well today.
I think the obvious thing that is the only non-nitpicking thing to me for Idaho that did not go well is you can tell this offensive line they struggle some in pass protection. That's again McCoy took a few sacks, plus he was under duress for a bit relative to a blowout win, and this is now obviously just in comparison to your Montana States or like your Sacramento States or UC Davis's. And there's Captain 58 in the comments section saying Giovanni was hurried a lot. He was. Offensive line is still a work in progress. It's not terrible, but it's not Big Sky elite by any means. And like when I watch Idaho, to me, it's clear that's pretty much the only limiting factor whatsoever. As C. Hansen in the comment section saying that duster had better not go anywhere. It's officially a good luck charm. Protected at all costs, Brian. Oh yeah, obviously I will protect the duster over my left shoulder for watchers. But I mean, Dallas, I don't think there's anything else to talk about that isn't nitpicking for Idaho. Look, Martin, you talked about some situations, but Idaho goes still. We're talking about the O-line. Idaho goes 3 of 3 on 4th down conversions. That's a reasonable metric for some offensive line performance, but I don't see anything other than the ability to give Giovanni enough time as the biggest concern for Idaho yet. And Giovanni just took too many hits.
Yeah, so Taylor Cash mentioning in the comments blitz pickup is a problem. I don't want to pin everything on the offensive line because the offensive line doesn't necessarily look terrible. They are winning their one-on-one matchups most of the time. They're obviously, you get beat, like not everybody has a 100% success rate. Like that's just how football goes. But on the whole, it does seem like the 5 offensive linemen are holding up fairly well. It's when the blitz happens or when things are coming, not just a straight rush, if there's any sort of trickery to it, that seems to be where the problem lies to me. That's got to be cleaned up, and I think that just comes with time. Again, Idaho's offensive line, just the offensive unit as a whole, very young, very inexperienced. These are the types of things that just get better as they go along. And again, Brian, you said it, multiple folks, Jason Mayer, Cap Dan, have both said it in the comments. Vonnie needs to slide more. Vonnie gets hurried a lot. Like that is the one thing that's terrifying. Obviously, the kid's a hell of an athlete. Obviously, you saw it in the 40-yard sprint that he had that really just put the final nail in the coffin. But that is a little bit concerning how quickly he has to start moving out of the pocket anytime that there's any sort of stunting going on from the defense. Yeah,
there was 3 sacks on the game, Dallas. On all those sacks looked like they were pretty damn near untouched when defenders got into when the defenders made it to Giovanni. But when Giovanni had pressure, you're right. Like there wasn't much resistance to the blitz or any sort of misdirection going on. So Dallas has vanished, which makes it seem like it may not, Martin, be an awful time for us to jump into our Hughes River Expedition ad read while we get Dallas back on. Forgive me, guys, for not having his sultry tones. But hey, one of our show sponsors, Hughes River. If you are looking for a great all-inclusive week-long vacation, don't look past your backyard. Hughes River Expeditions has been Vandal owned and operated since 1976 and are ready to take you on the vacation of a lifetime. Enjoy a multi-day trip down the Middle Fork of the Salmon, the main Salmon River no return, the Salmon River Canyons or the Selway. Check out special trips like the one to see the Perseid meteor shower. Camp on pristine beaches, run amazing whitewater, hike scenic trails, spot wildlife, soak in beautiful natural hot springs, and fish some of the most remote stretches of river in the country. You just bring your clothes and let HRE handle the rest. So grab a paddle, catch dinner, and ride the bull all throughout the Gem State. Call them now at 800-262-1882 or check them out at hughesriver.com, which Hughes River has been supporting Tubs of the Club, which is also being supported by Snake River Stampede Canadian Whiskey for quite a while, guys. So if you have any interest at all in expeditions, you got to get a hold of Colin. So Martin, while Dallas is getting back on, we hit what went well. We hit what did not go as well. You talked about your kind of emotional takeaway earlier, but what going forward, trying to extrapolate into what this means, Martin, for Dallas and for Idaho into the future, like what's your instant reaction to trying to interpret this win?
To me, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of being hesitant on ever saying anything, but to me it kind of shows that Idaho is an FCS power, and I kind of feel happy being able to say that finally.
Yeah, I mean, when we do the power rankings, I think it's going to be hard with Idaho beating Nevada and then Montana State narrowly losing at South Dakota State. It's going to be pretty hard for Idaho to not be number 1 in our Big Sky Conference power rankings. If Idaho doesn't move up at least a slot or two, they're at number 7 right now in FCS polls. If Idaho doesn't move up a slot or two, it's because the voters are morons who are a little bit too married to whatever number they gave this last week. Because I got to say, Idaho, if you imagine yourself from the perspective of a non-Idaho fan who looks at this box score, maybe watched a good amount of this game, what you see is the kind of team that's just going to win playoff. They're going to make the playoffs. And positionally speaking, Idaho with 2 wins now can go 5-3 in the Big Sky Conference season and still sneak into, one of those last playoff spots. But if Idaho can finish around 6-2 or something like that, we're absolutely talking by potential as far as playoffs are concerned, which that's the biggest takeaway for me is if you were skeptical about what to take away from Idaho beating a shitty Lamar team, hey, that's not a bad place to be. But no, Idaho they absolutely deserve top 5 at FCS consideration right now. Nevada looked outclassed talent-wise, Martin. This wasn't just, like a shitty outing by Nevada, which sometimes happens when FBS teams lose to FCS teams. This was clearly, look, I said this on Twitter. If Idaho looks like if they played Nevada between 95 and 100 times, Idaho would win 95 or 100 times, whatever number they played. The Vandals looked like a more talented team athletically. They looked like a faster team. They're clearly a better coach team. They're just good guys. Like, the question for this team right now, 2 games in, is how far can Idaho go? How long can Idaho push this, with the only concern really limiting being an offensive line at all, and only against the elite teams in the nation. Dallas, you look like you're back. One, are you back?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. And hey, I asked Martin what interpreting this game into the future. What does this game mean for Idaho? So same question for you. Looking at what this means for this Idaho team heading through the rest of the season, what does this win mean to you?
This win means everything to me. To me, I think this proves that Idaho is at minimum the second best team in this conference. I know Montana State just narrowly lost to South Dakota State earlier today. And that, yes, there's the concerns. The offensive line is obviously not where you want it to be if you're contending for national championships. But realistically, every other question mark that we had about this team coming into the season, I think was proved today. That's what this says to me, is Idaho is absolutely a contender to win every single game that they are going to play. I honestly think Idaho is going to give Cal fits next week. I don't, we're going to preview that next week. I don't want to get into it. I'm not necessarily saying that Idaho is going to go beat a Power 5 team on the road, but the days of Idaho rolling into an FBS squad and getting just absolutely demolished, losing by 50, 60, 70, I think those days are done, guys. And that's what this says to me, is this program has absolutely turned it around.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Look, I think it's worth hitting a little bit more interpretation about this game in a moment. But Martin, we have to talk about show sponsor Snake River Stampede Canadian Whiskey. Look, it's and to me, a win over an FBS team like this, that's a Snake River Stampede 1915 small batch edition type of night. Look, they're both Snake River Stampede, they're entry level and they're small batch. They're kick-ass Canadian whiskeys, 80% corn, 10% rye, 10% malted barley. If you get Snake River Stampede, that's double barrel finished in first fill bourbon casks and then Oloroso sherry casks. If you get the 1915 small batch, that starts in first fill bourbon, finishes in Canadian rye casks. It's aged an extra couple of years. And look, the whiskey itself, obviously good, has wood, brown sugar notes you expect out of whiskey, a Canadian whiskey. It also has a kind of cherried candy quality, which I think that's to me the sherry cask influence. But look, Snake River Stampede, one of the best buys in the Idaho liquor stores, about $24.95, I think, for a fifth. $42.95 if you're like me, and you buy it by the handle exclusively. But yeah, check them out, dude. We have tailgating in Moscow coming up in not too long when Sac State comes to town. Make sure you try out Snake River Stampede Canadian whiskey. So look, Martin, Dallas hit it talking about, looking at the Cal game. But, to me, this win today is the best case scenario of, I'm not talking about the debate in fans between FBS, FCS. I'm talking about the reality of Idaho in the FCS for until they're not. This to me was the statement game of, this is what Idaho was supposed to look like in year one of dropping to the FCS. They were supposed to look like a team that not only was going to handle virtually all of the FCS, minus maybe just the elite teams, but was also going to go against Mountain West type of teams, FBS, that level, G5 teams, and pick up wins or at the very least make them sweat. Now, whatever, I'm not looking at the 2025 schedule, 2024 schedule yet, but whenever Idaho's next G5 matchup, that coach is absolutely going to be sweating at a bye game that they might get their ass kicked. Just like today, Nevada paid Idaho $400,000 to get their ass kicked at home, 33-6.
How many bottles of Snake River whiskey is that, Brian?
A few.
Hopefully enough for Nevada to forget about this game.
Yeah, well, based off the how Nevada looked on the field, they're not sharp enough to know that's what they should be grabbing in Idaho State liquor stores. So don't worry about it. They're going to grab something else. But so Dallas, look, for the next few minutes, we got to talk takeaways. We can also talk more facets of the game. I can hand you the wheel here because there's still a lot. We could go on for hours if we wanted to. This could be a Grizz fan episode. It's not going to be. But there was a shit ton of stuff that went well today.
I mean, honestly, guys, really, I mean, when we talked about what didn't go well, that was what didn't go well, was just really about that offensive play. Every other aspect of the game looked great. Chavez, we haven't even gotten to Chavez yet. His punting has gotten better. Obviously, you still want a little bit of the touch. We still got a couple touchbacks kicking it into the end zone, but perfect on field goals again. Like the touch he had at the beginning of last season is back. We are living good as Vandals fans right now. This is maybe a little bit premature to say, but maybe for the first time that I can remember, Idaho might win more games than they lose 2 years in a row. This is like the foundation of building a program that will actually contend year in and year out. I love it.
No, well, that's the best bet right now because Idaho with 2 wins. That's going 4-4 in the Big Sky to still finish above 500 for the season. So if you were betting, you should bet on Idaho finishing above 500.
First time since the late 90s that Idaho has won the first 2 games of their season back-to-back years. Or not back-to-back years, excuse me, even just started 2-0. This is the first time since the 90s.
Yeah. So, hey, I want to throw back to you. I'm going to ask a different question. Of the things that went well, what was most surprising to you, Dallas?
I think, honestly, the run game. I know I mentioned that specifically, something that I was very impressed with. I was blown away to see. Again, I know that we're talking Nevada as a very, very bottom FBS school. After what I perceived as struggles running the ball against a quite poor FCS school, I was not expecting to see what I consider a pretty significant step forward 1 week later against an FBS school. I don't know if it was the heat. I don't know if just minor adjustments in coaching, but I thought that was really promising to see. I thought the offensive line had a little bit more push running the ball. And while, yes, there weren't the incredible 95-yard runs to be seen, it was more consistent gains. Felt like we didn't see as many of the 1 yard, no yard, minus 2 yards. Obviously, there's still a couple of those sprinkled in, but that was very surprising to me to see that step forward happen so fast.
Yeah, the running game, it was odd to watch because just on paper, the numbers weren't that impressive. 3.9 yards per rush, 150 yards on 38 attempts. But you're right. The run game was solid. Anthony Woods had multiple plays where you understand how he's a threat to go deep essentially at any time. And deep doesn't have to mean 93 yards. He is a threat to take an up the middle run that should be 5 yards, 20 by making a guy miss. I mean, if he hadn't fumbled on that first rush, that was a really impressive rush. He made multiple dudes miss to get to where he was when he went down. And then Nick Romano, Romano is stronger when he comes around the outside. He is not the most shifty back, which actually it's kind of weird to me to watch Romano because when he gets ahead of steam, he's physical. He's pretty tough to take down, but he's doing well in that change of pace role. Now it was hard to gauge how he produced in the second quarter because thanks to Nevada's dog shit camera work, which look, Dallas, you know how to explain this better, but to put it simply, you said it looked like a sideline camera went down for Nevada.
Dallas, you're muted, just like the football game was.
Thank you. What it looked like to me is, again, as a former broadcast journalist guy, it looked to me like there was a problem with the truck and they couldn't switch off of anything other than that camera. They obviously didn't have the score up when we were on that camera. They didn't have the sideline shot. They weren't cutting to anything at all. It was just, we stayed on that camera for, it felt like 15 minutes, just watching him zoom in and out and do his shots and his focusing. Typically what that means is something in the live truck that's sending the signal back. Something in that truck has failed. I don't know if they were just scrambling, hitting buttons, rebooting things. I don't know what happened to get it fixed. But yeah, we did spend a good portion of that first half just watching the end zone camera zoomed into the quarterback's helmet, which was interesting.
Oh, well, it was a gigantic pain in the ass because you could absolutely make nothing of the formations.
No,
it was hard. You couldn't see any plays come together whatsoever. That's not just an us thing. That's anyone talking about this game who wasn't live. There's going to be parts of the second quarter we can't really interpret. But no, the running game was solid. Yeah, I felt much better about the running game afterward. I think the question about the number 2 running back, it's very clearly Romano. It's very clearly not the 1A, 1B like we had last year. It's clearly Anthony Woods is number 1 and Romano is number 2. And I know we thought we were going to see a little bit more George Robinson for short yardage situations. And hey, maybe that materializes later. But right now, no, it just looks like we have 2 backs and that's it. And Anthony Woods is clearly
I do have a correction for you. Romano only had 1 more carry than George Robinson. Technically, the second string was in, but as the numbers go, Robinson technically only had 1 less carry than Romano did.
Let me rephrase this. What I meant was relative to first string time playing. George Robinson clearly came in late in the game. But it's Anthony Woods looks like he's taken a developmental step forward for sure. And Nick Romano, honestly, he looks closer to like he did when he was a freshman, where he's not the most electric running back, but he's fast and he's strong and he easily suffices. So Martin, do you have anything else that you found of things that went well that were surprising to you out the gate?
Not really. I mean, it just was. I got nothing else to really add.
Okay. Well, hey, we still have another. We have not that much to go to close this out, but we got to talk about Tap the Keg, which another show sponsor, which is, look, it's the Idaho Oktoberfest. It's Friday, October 13th, 2023. By the way, Saturday, October 14th is homecoming. So if you're in Moscow staying the night, which please tell me you have your hotel booked by now, because if you don't, good luck. But Tap the Keg, looking forward to UVI homecoming this fall. Make sure to purchase your tickets for the second ever Tap the Keg Brewfest on Friday, October 13th from 3:30 to 7:30 p.m. The Brewfest will be at the Dan O'Brien Track and Field Complex, just outside the Kibbie Dome. Local and regional beer, ciders, and seltzers will be available to taste. Oktoberfest-inspired foods, vendors, and live music to enjoy. Early pricing. So, hey, if you buy your tickets early, they're cheaper, guys. Ends on September 25th. You do not want to miss the event. Purchase tickets at go.uidaho.edu/tapthekeg.
We will also have that linked in the YouTube description and the podcast descriptions in case you need. Again, go.uidaho.edu/tapthekeg. It is in the comment section.
Yeah. All right. So, Dallas, closing thoughts.
That honestly is going to go down as one of the 5 best Vandal games I've ever watched in my life, as far as an emotional significance and as far as the feelings I have about the program now. Guys, I said it in the last show when I was stupidly looking at comments from Rack of Tits 69, who did not show up, made a whole bunch of big talk about going to be in Reno, going to be interacting with people, and then chickened out again. So, Rack of Tits, I'm not interacting with you again until you show your face. It's enough. We're sick of this shit. Anyways, guys, I wasn't excited for this game. I didn't think Nevada was very good. I thought Idaho was just going to roll them over, which is exactly what happened. But now that we're on the other side of it, guys, Idaho would be a pretty good team in the Mountain West at this point. I think Idaho versus Boise State, I think Idaho wins. I know that the FCS FBS thing is probably never going to die, but this is a pretty damn good place to be. If you take into where Idaho was the last 25 years of you get one good season every 10 years and that's it. This really has the feelings of a special season starting in year 2, back-to-back good years. It really feels like there is something really special being built by Jason Eck here. And I could not be happier with Vandal football right now. Martin, closing takeaways.
I don't want to repeat what Dallas said, but to me, this is like he said. It is a probably top 5. I'm not gonna lie. I'm I'm going to put this over the Colorado State game, the bowl game, 2016 bowl game. It's right up there with the Montana game last year with like where I rank Vandal wins. And man, it feels damn good to be a Vandal right now.
Yeah, so I just want to hit one thing because we haven't brought it up enough, or we haven't brought up enough specificity, the receiving room. Hayden Hatton, 5 catches, 85 yards. TJ Ivy, 2 catches, 82 yards and a touchdown. Jermaine Jackson, 3 catches, 45 yards. Therese Traynor, 2 for 27. Alex Moore caught a 15-yard touchdown pass. By the way, great to see Alex Moore hitting the field after that blown ACL last season. But the reason I'm bringing up the receivers, we essentially have to read the entire receiver box score to hit every talented Idaho receiver who could be a number 1 or number 2 at virtually every single Big Sky school. It's wild to me that we're going to have guys like Jermaine Jackson, stat wise, looks like he's probably going to contribute a little bit less this year compared to last season. He's still the same dude. He's still good. It's just there's a ton of guys to spread this out to, and it's more hitting on a version of what Dallas said. If you haven't bought your season tickets yet, one, like, you haven't missed out on any potential games. We're not that far away from missing out on the potential games, but get on the train now, guys. In the era of college sports that we live in, things can come together fast and they can fall apart fast. And I don't mean Idaho's going to fall apart, but if Idaho's going to keep kicking Nevada's ass and they're going to keep making the playoffs and shit like that, Idaho's going to lose coaches, because Idaho should lose coaches because they're doing a great job. You've talked about Rob Borisch, because defensively, Idaho looks fantastic. And when he was here last year, that was a huge step up. And this year's a step up from before. Someone with a brain is going to give that guy a shot as a head coach at some point. But there's other dudes who are going to move up the coaching ladder from Idaho. So enjoy the team while we can now. This is, to me, don't worry about building for the future. The future's today. It was today that Idaho beat the shit out of an FBS team in a conference that Idaho fans, a lot of them would love to have Idaho in the Mountain West. But we get to take $400,000 back as well and fund the athletic department, which, hey, makes that win a little bit nicer. Just please, if you haven't bought your tickets, get them. And if you are on the fence about showing up to the first home game against Sacramento State, do it, guys. Idaho essentially has 3 out of 4 home games as de facto playoff type games, or games with playoff stakes in them. Sacramento State, Montana State. We need to make the Dome not look like San Diego State. We need to make the Dome not look like what Nevada had, where it was unclear if the student body was even aware of the game going on. Please get on. Please get on this train. And Dallas just brought up, we do need to go over offensive and defensive MVPs. Martin, your offensive MVP.
I'm going to take the obvious one and just go Giovanni McCoy. That he played a terrific game today.
Sorry, Brian, I thought you were going. I am assuming by the silence, I will go. Again, all these technical problems, guys, I think I figured out what was wrong with my computer, so this should be a little bit smoother on the next go-around. My MVP on the offense, this is a really strange pick, but I'm going to go with TJ Ivy. I know he made 2 receptions, one for 75 yards and a touchdown, the other for 7 yards, but that to me was the most important play of that game. That was an immediate kick Nevada's teeth in and show them this game is going to suck for them. That is exactly what Idaho did. It was TJ Ivy taking that to the house.
Yeah, offensive MVP. Now, if we were talking play of the game, Dallas, brain dead. That's the play of the game. That was easily the most meaningful play. It's hard to stress how, at least from watching the game and what I felt like I saw watching the game, Idaho was pumped anyway. And then after that play, you could see Nevada looking deflated. And yeah, like they kind of stabilized, but whatever. My MVP is Giovanni McCoy. It's going to be, there's some times I think Giovanni McCoy is going to be like the default MVP just because of spreading the ball around, because Hayden Hatton still, you saw the All-American talent there, but going 15 to 21, 313 yards and 2 touchdowns, in addition to 6 rushes for 30 yards, which is actually 3 rushes for some other number of yards because he was sacked 3 times. But McCoy was good as he always is. even under duress, the dude was stable. There is no sophomore slump. If anything, he's starting off this season in last year's midseason form.
A sophomore surge, if you will.
Yes. I mean, today, Giovanni McCoy looked like he was playing against a school that would be dumb enough to purposely hire Zach Kloss. So, Giovanni McCoy's offensive MVP for me. Defensive MVP, Martin.
I'm going to go with Dylan Lane. He was flying around making plays, and I thought the interception, I thought he had kind of made me think, okay, this is going to happen. Mine is Dylan Lane.
I'm going to go with Matthias Bertram. I thought the linebacking core, again, guys, I think the linebacking core looks better than it did last year. And I don't mean that as a slight against Favai and Paul Moala, both who were all big Sky guys. But I think that the linebacking room is somehow better than they were last year. Very excited to see what's going on. I thought Bertram was all over the field. He had multiple tackles for loss today. I thought he was really the tip of the spear that just realistically stabbed Nevada right in the throat.
I really want to go with Marcus Harris, who had 5 kick-ass solo tackles, also a big pass breakup early. But I'm going to go with Amari Notice, number 92, on the line. The stats don't scream at you, 4 tackles, 3 solo, but 92 was he's a monster out there, guys. Didn't play that much last season. He's got a significantly larger role. He combines with Larmond to be the beef that Idaho missed from last season. But notice himself, man. He is a handful for every single team that Idaho's going to play this year. He is, even if he's not getting to the quarterback, you can tell he's putting pressure. He's helping funnel in the quarterback away from the design play. You can tell that look, he's a guy who's sometimes just going to have to be doubled on the offensive from opposing team's offensive line. So yeah, Amari Notice is my defensive MVP. But there's honestly, again, Idaho gave up 6 points. I mean, there's a shit ton of guys we could pick.
That's the thing. Idaho gave up 6 points, and again, I think 3 of them was off a field goal from a short field turnover. So you could name realistically anybody else on the team. The crew had 76 saying the defensive line was the defensive MVP. Even the bad Nevada announcers talked very heavily about Idaho's defensive line bullying Nevada's offensive line around. Marcus Harris had an incredibly well defended pass. Second, third play of the game, Nevada decided to test him on a deep shot. And then, sure enough, didn't really throw to Marcus Harris again because he just locked down that side of the field again. So really fucking phenomenal performance by the defense. My hat is off to all of the coaches for the effort that was put in holding an FBS school to 6 points.
Yeah, no, it was just fun. It was incredible, guys. That was it. Idaho absolutely beat the shit out of Nevada. That's it. Doesn't matter what angle you want to talk about. You want to talk about the athleticism? Idaho was better. You want to talk about coaching? Idaho was better. You want to talk about explosive offense? Idaho was better. You want to talk about being tough defensively? Idaho was way better. There's just absolute, Taylor Cash said it. Nevada announcers had DNV. That's truly how the game went. I guess the only complaint really is as we get into Big Sky season, we're probably going to find an announcer or two who doesn't think Ricardo Chavez plays every single position for Idaho, that I will be a little bit disappointed when we've entered that point in our lives, Dallas, or when we no longer have what you may have infamously coined slap dick as the announcing crew. Hey, we've got weeks 2 for 2 on that too. Sean Foster in the comments saying better uniforms too. Yeah, guys, I'm super partial to the uniform style our white uniforms are going to have from last season. Infinitely, they're way better than the black ones. But if we're winning, I'm not going to complain too much about the style points of the uniforms themselves. I just don't think there's really any sort of discussion. Support Tubs of the Club at patreon.com/Tubs of the Club. If you don't want to do the Patreon thing, you can Venmo subscription stuff. We can just send you a link to the Discord. As always, the Tubs of the Club Discord is active from the first kick to the last play. It's, to me, the best place to go for Vandal discussion. Anyway, it's fun. It makes the games better when you're not in person to have a community they're talking what you're into, and it just doesn't have any of the dumb shit that most internet websites have. So that's one way to support the show. Also hit that subscribe button for YouTube. Once we get to 1,000 subscribers, YouTube is forced to pay us something.
And maybe that means I'll be able to get a computer that will start fixing the muting and dropping the camera and dropping the, everything that keeps breaking. Maybe we'll get some new equipment.
See, your problem is you don't have a duster in your room.
That is the problem.
That's really, it's the straw that stirs the drink in my office space. No real question about that, guys. So, look, we're going to preview the Cal game on Tuesday. I'm going to go live tomorrow night at some point. I have absolutely no idea when, to go over the Big Sky Podcast power rankings, which there's going to be some fun discussion. Things like Idaho State giving up 44 points in the second quarter. Just the second quarter, guys.
I thought that was the second half.
No, that was the second quarter. Idaho State gave up 44.
They had allowed 51 points by halftime. Not many times do you see the 50 burger completed before halftime.
Yeah, Martin has arrived at a point I was curious about. Is it bad to give up 44 points in a quarter? I guess so. We'll listen to the podcast listen to the Power Rankings podcast tomorrow, and you can find out. But anyway, guys, it's been kick-ass, man. Season's already 2 weeks in. Get on board. The season vanished. Football season goes by so goddamn fast, man. We have 9 games left, 10 total weeks. 2 of them are down. Like this, it's fast, but it's the best time of the year. So anyway, guys, but do we need to hit that comment right now that's on the screen, Martin? Is that why was it thrown up there on purpose? Okay.
Dallas, you're muted.
Every time it has been a show. No, I was just throwing it up. Thank you, Henry, for the comment. I just wanted to put it on the screen. It's very large, and I wanted to have it up while we rolled it out because it's going to be tougher to read through it than most of our forward comments.
Okay, perfect. Well, hey guys, we got another theoretically winnable game to talk about. Like, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but Idaho's shown up for every single FBS game under Jason Eck. So every single FBS game has been competitive. So if you're gambling at the
Idaho's had a lead in every FBS game under Jason Eck.
Jesus Christ, man. That's a pretty damn big deal. So yeah, tune in and thanks for supporting the show. Go Vandals.
Get your asses to Moscow for Sac State and go Vandals.
Go Vandals.
IDAHO!